Thank you, Director Gregg. Great sentiments and ideas. We believe we have a lineup of speakers that will speak to those traits, and our first speaker is no exception. She's a treat. Chantal Vallee is an exceptional woman. There are very few vocations in life that exemplify leadership more than that of a team coach. Whether that team consists of a corporate division, a not-for-profit group, or an athletic team, the role of the coach is crucial to the success of that team, from preparation to inspiration to execution during the actual contests themselves. We have with us today one of the greatest coaches in North American history. Her bio is on your website. It's also in your program. But we all understand that winning 5 straight national championships is a feat that approaches legendary proportions. Hopefully this morning, Chantal will give us some insight as to what exactly helps her succeed in the very competitive world of women's athletics.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chantal Vallee.
Woody. This morning, what I wanted to share with you is the incredible underdog story of this group of women that when we took over the University of Windsor women's basketball team, how we were able to move from last in the country, and the program had been last for over 50 years, and move it into national champion for multiple times. So this underdog story is what I want to share with you. And in order to do this, I really like to start with a dog story. You see, when I was in university and I was doing my master's degree, and I was trying to research on what makes leaders successful, pardon me. I had a neighbor, and she was absolutely infatuated with huskies. She was a university student, and she really loved the husky breed. You know that breed that looks like a wolf? Right? So they have like straight ears and... Closer? Okay, so back to the wolf. Okay, so my friend really wanted to have a husky, and you know those husky dogs that look like wolves, those like straight ears, blue eyes, they're usually like white and dark, and they're just really majestic. And so she was so infatuated by that dog breed that she proceeded to put pictures of huskies everywhere in her house. I mean, she was determined to find the best husky breeder in our country. So she proceeded to go online and did this search, and she found out that the best husky breeder for her to go buy it was completely in the western part of the country, and we lived out east. So she contacted the breeder, and she decided to book herself a plane ticket to go get the first puppy she wanted out of the litter as soon as they were born. I mean, you understand how she was really infatuated with those, right? Okay, so as good friends, we, encouraged her a little bit, and we made sure that she got a ride to the airport because she'd received a phone call that the puppies were born. And up she goes in a 5-hour plane ride to go get herself the husky. And she tells us this story. She says, when she got to the farm, she was greeted by a very prideful breeder, of course. And suddenly she goes in there and she sees 6 beautiful fur ball of husky material coming right at her. She was in husky heaven. And she started to look at them and say, oh my goodness, which one am I going to choose? And then suddenly she heard a very strange noise coming from the shed. And so she looked, and she saw this weird thing coming at her so fast that she screamed, and at once the farmer just kicked it with its boots, and it went on squealing back to the farm. And my friend was kind of taken aback, and so she tells the story, and she says, like, I told the farmer, I said, what was that? And he just completely ignored her. And he redirected her attention to those beautiful fur balls. And she says, no, I want to know. And as she looked, she saw a little ear and a little head. And she saw a little, like, kind of like brown and beige little animal coming out. And she said, is that one of the puppies? And at that point, he kind of was a little agitated. And so she says, oh, that's one of them. And then he got like really angry, and he was like, I don't know how this got into the breed. I don't understand how it came out this way. It wasn't supposed to be part of my huskies. Look at these beautiful blue eye, white and gray and black animals out here. I don't know why this is there. Just ignored it. And in fact, he says, I'm just gonna leave it there, and if it dies, it just dies. So my friend said, I want that one. Well, at that point, they actually had a fight. Because he says, you booked yourself a plane ticket all the way here, and you're going to carry my name all the way back to Montreal, which is where we were, to say that this doesn't look like a husky. You are not allowed to take this animal out of this farm. Well, after a few arguments, obviously, they said, you know what, just take it. And he was very upset, and she left the farm with this German Shepherd looking husky. So we were very excited to go pick her back up, obviously, at the airport, and we're set on the arrival, and she comes back on the flight, and we go in the oversized baggage where the husky is supposed to be arriving, and we're all very excited to see this wolf with blue eyes and white and gray fur and black, and suddenly this animal comes out, and she opens the cage, and we're like, what happened? Why'd you buy a German Shepherd? She says, don't you dare give this dog an identity crisis. It's a husky. We are going to treat her like a husky. We're going to love her like a husky. We're going to pet her like a husky. We're going to tell her ears are going to be up straight, and her fur is going to stop being scruffy, and she's going to have the tail that's going to curl eventually, and we are going to love this animal like a husky. And we're like, yes, ma'am. So we go back to our house, and as I said, we were neighbors, but we brought the dog to our apartment first, and it was really obvious that the dog had been mistreated. It was very sad. It was crouching all the time. It wouldn't eat in front of us. It was terribly scared of male voices, and I mean, like, it was just shaking all the time. In fact, I remember, like, let's take this dog to the park, and the dog was afraid of squirrels. Have you ever seen a dog afraid of squirrels? The tail was between its leg. But my friend was so adamant about this, and she really wanted to believe that this dog could transform into what it should be. And so we just went with a plan, and we decided to, like, pet this dog and tell it how beautiful it is. And, the tail is supposed to be up, and sometimes we'll take it and we'd go back down, and we would really work out the dog as much as we could. In reality, there was about 5 or 6 of us that really intensively believe in that strategy. And we started to really actually like the dog. And we did this nonstop every day for an entire 2 years. 2 years. It took 2 years of hard work and petting the dog and verbalizing how the dog should be. And after 2 years, you know what happened? Nothing. The dog didn't change. It was still afraid. It was still shaking. It would still hide under the couch to eat. It was really sad. What was even more sad is that my friend had then graduated from her studies, and so she was going to get a job in Africa, and so she had to leave. And the dog was going to be abandoned once again. So Mika became my dog. You see, I couldn't let her go. And as I continued to research on leadership and do my master's degree and really dig deep and read so many books on the greatest leader and so many published articles and go around the country and even in America to try to find out what makes good leaders, I had to continue to walk this dog twice a day and pet her and tell her how much of a beautiful husky she was and how great she was going to become. And in the end, Mika taught me the greatest leadership lesson that I've ever seen. Because for 2 more years, I was doing my research, and I continued to buy into that Mika strategy. Slowly, after 2 more years, she's now 4 years old, we started to see changes in her. 4 years. 4 years of continuing to give her love and believing in her and telling this live animal that she's supposed to be great and she's supposed to chase squirrels, not be afraid of them, and she can eat and nothing was going to happen to her. 4 years later, slowly we start to see improvement in her. She definitely taught me the greatest leadership lesson. Anybody, any organization can move from being an underdog to a top dog. If you knew Mika today, and in fact, if you knew me, and if you came to my office, you would still see Mika. She's became the greatest dog ever. And now she's actually quite a social butterfly. So at work, she comes to my office, and at about 10 a.m. she stretches because it's cookie time, and then she goes and sees all the other coaches that has cookies in their office, and she's like a super social butterfly. Yes, and there was a time even then, like right now, I cannot go to the park and walk her until all the squirrels are really, really safe up in the trees. She's really good at that. She has become absolutely loyal, incredible, and just a beautiful, beautiful animal. Talking about an underdog becoming a top dog, this came at the same time as I was reading the story of Gandhi. You've heard about Gandhi. However you say it in America, I'm not sure. Gandhi, we got this. He has a quote that really, really impacted me. And he says, you know, when somebody has crazy ideas out there, out of the box, something very different, first, people are going to ignore you. Then they're going to laugh at you. Then they're going to fight against you. But then you win. And it was really true of that Mika story, especially from this farmer that was so prideful in his breed of husky, rightfully so. And when I looked at Mika and how she was still brown and beige and brown eyes and fluffy ears, and how she'd become a little bit more aggressive, I'm like, yes, that makes sense. That is an embodiment of what she embodies what this leadership is talking about. So after I was done my research and I got the opportunity to coach at the University of Windsor, everybody was saying to me, Chantal, I think you're going to be quite a great coach, but you shouldn't go there because the program has been so bad and nobody has done anything with that city or that program in so many years. If you go there, it is professional suicide. But I was young and I had never coached a university before, so I couldn't get a job anywhere else, but they hired me. And in fact, I still remember, which was very extraordinary, because when we came out and we started to build the program and we won our first national championship, of course, my athletic director is absolutely ecstatic and he's jumping around and he's got a net around his neck and he's so happy and he's giving me a hug. And I said, Mr. Grace, thank you so much for believing in me and hiring me. This was really, 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 I know, a lot of faith on your part. And he goes, oh no, Chantal, don't mind at all, never mind. Nobody else had applied. But you know, our women's basketball story was the same. In the interview, when I showed up and I said, I'm going to transform this program, we are going to do this, and we're going to implement the MICA strategy. And they're like, what? I said, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to tell the people of this city how great this city is. We're going to recruit and make a plan. We're going to have this dream that in 5 years we'll transform a program that's been in the ashes into national champions. And you know, people giggled at me. My audience, the people that, like the panel, they were like giggling. I said, no, it's okay. And I'm thinking, it's okay, they're at level 2. They didn't ignore me. They're laughing at me. But we're going to get them to then maybe fight against me a little bit, hire me, and then we'll go out there and win. The women's basketball story at the University of Windsor is very particular as well, because what you have to understand is that when we first started to get this program going, nobody wanted to play for us. And nobody wanted to play against us. It was really interesting. We're a bit removed from the greater geographical center where all the teams are, so it's a 4-hour ride, and nobody really wants to do this on a Wednesday night or a Friday night and go play a team that they're going to beat by 60 and then come back, right? So there was this slogan in the league that I learned about later. It was called Windsor 2. Because you know, when you win, you get 2 points in the win column. And that was the slogan of the entire conference. Windsor 2, let's get on that 8-hour bus ride, 4-hour there, 4-hour back to get our 2 points in the win column. That's how much people didn't want to even play against us. What was even more is that as a university as a whole, the university didn't have the greatest reputation. It wasn't a plan A, it wasn't a plan B for students, it wasn't a plan C, it wasn't a plan at all. That's what I found out when we were recruiting. And then I show up to this town, and suddenly, you know, we're just across from Detroit, so that you can visualize. And just like Detroit, the economy of the city of Windsor is all based on the automotive industry, Ford, GM, Chrysler. This is what our city is known for, and we collaborate with the city of Detroit with that big 3 back in those years, in 2005 and so on and so forth. It was just when this automotive industry was really crashing. So suddenly, everybody was moving out of Windsor. There was no more jobs. There was foreclosure signs everywhere. And here I was, just this new coach with all these dreams of recruiting people to come play for us and building a winning team. So instead of focusing on what was really negative and listening to my colleagues at work, a lot of it was why it's not possible here, where we don't have the resources, where we don't have the money, where we don't have the support. It's easy to get caught into these way of thinking. I decided, well, I have nothing to lose. Let's find a way. Let's find a way. And so I took all the negative things and I thought, what do the greatest leaders do that I've learned? They take this and they make it an opportunity. They take a challenge and they make it an opportunity. They take a challenge and they make it an opportunity. Hey everybody, come play for Windsor. Rent is really cheap. There's places everywhere. You can live and buy, and you know, you can buy a house, have your parents invest into the housing, and then you can make some money out of this. You can rent to other students, or you can just live for very, very cheap. Okay, yeah. But we started to recruit and promote our university and our vision and our plan and our idea. We did that for 2 years. And you already know what happened, right? After 2 years? Nothing. We didn't even make playoffs. We were so bad. And I'm thinking, I gotta go back home. This is just not gonna work. But every night I would walk my little Mika with her tail up. Her ears were still floppy, but it's okay. We were still working on the ears. And she would chase squirrels, and she would run, she would eat, she would give me kisses, and I thought, I gotta give it more time. I gotta give it more time. That vision needs to take time. Because maybe there are changes that are happening at the very minimal level, at a particular level in this universe that I don't see yet at the human eye. But with one more year and one more year, maybe we're gonna start seeing the changes in the physical world, right? And of course, by our 4th year, which was 4 years later, as I'm still walking Mika, and we're now conference champion, and we're going to go to Final Four for the first time, I started to see it. And that was absolutely incredible. To the point where today, in our country, we are known as the powerhouse of Canada. Wow! I mean, this is incredible. Are you not impressed? Oh, okay. We did it. I have a funny story. I remember we recruited this 6'5" player from the Czech Republic, and I had been coaching in the Czech Republic for a little bit, and I thought, oh, we need some tall girls. 6'5" kind of works. So, you know, and I gotta tell you, she was on the national team. She was good, and she was recruited by all your best universities out here, and I have no idea, you know, why. Well, actually I do, because that's part of the story, why she decided to come to Windsor, but that's part of the story. So I'm like, Eva's her name. I was like, Eva, you gotta come to Windsor. You know, once again, it's across from Detroit, right? So it's very flat. All we have is the Detroit River, okay? And then, you know the Rockies, right? And in her head, that's all she knew about America was the Rockies. I don't know why, pictures, whatever. And so when I talked to her parents, I talked to her over Skype, they called me back the next day, they're like, we are coming to Canada. We're coming to Windsor. We are so excited about the Rockies. Anything, challenge into opportunity. That's gonna work. So she came to Windsor, and I make sure that year we booked a plane ticket and we went to play a team in the Rockies so she could see it. That was for sure. In this presentation, I was telling you I was going to start with a dog story. I really wanted to give you the idea of how much time it takes to transform an organization, a culture, a people group, a team, even a person. Like I said in the video, a lot of it was first trying to change myself, my mindset, the way I thought, the way I approached things. That was the most challenging thing. It's not so much what I did as a coach as much as who I became that made a difference in the way that leadership was imparted to my subordinate, my team, my staff. That was probably the most important thing. And before I move to the second part of this presentation, I want to leave you with this image. Because when I think back about how to transform things or people, organization, I really like to show this image because once she was a puppy that was absolutely left on the side to die because she was black and beige, brown eyes, scruffy fur, and floppy ears. She wasn't like everybody else. And now she gets her image projected everywhere I speak in the world. And we're gonna see Mika right here on the stage. Isn't she just a beautiful puppy? Look at how majestic she looks.
Her ears are up.
Well, there's still a little flop, right? A little flop, but she was still young there, so it's getting there. Right, it was getting there. But look at how amazing she looks. And please, if you see me, I'm gonna be here all day, do not dare tell me she looks like a German Shepherd. Building a championship you is probably the most important thing into building a championship culture in any organization that we are part of. And the focus should be a lot more internal than external. And people don't always like when I talk about this because they want to have, wait, what's the 5 easy steps here to get to where we want to go? And that's okay because we like to do things. And those are good principles, and I have some of them for you. And I will share those that I found through the 3 years of research that we did at McGill University, is the university I did all this research with on leadership. During my master's degree, it was very interesting. I was clear with my supervisor that I wanted to become a basketball coach, not a researcher, although he was very disappointed. He would have liked me to continue to research for years to come, which he convinced me to do, because I never stopped, even though I then became a basketball coach. I like to be hands-on. I like to be doing things. But before this, the amazing amount of books that I had to read, the research I had to research, the people I had to meet, And how we went about doing the research was really amazing. I flew all across the country to interview the best coaches, those that had created Olympians, those that had taken programs that were not very good into national champion. And instead of using the usual questionnaire of, have you been meeting with your subordinate weekly, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you understand? Instead of doing this, which then we learn prescribes the answer into the question, because it's going to suggest you should be, right? We went to do something, and it was in 2000, so that was not very sexy back then, was to do qualitative research. It was kind of, oh, you know? And you should have seen my face after I just took I had to do my PhD stats class, and then he has me do qualitative research. I was so mad. But I go out there, and we ask questions. So we sat in front of these amazing leaders, and we just said, hey, what was your plan when you first took over the organization? Put a recorder, let them speak. This way, there was nothing in the data that we had suggested. Just tell us about your plan. And they would answer with a 25-minute answer, because coaches like to speak. But it was fascinating to find out what they were saying. In fact, after the third coach I had interviewed, they were saying the same thing. They didn't know who I was interviewing. They didn't know each other. They were different sports. They were from different conferences. They had no clue this was going on because there was a lot of confidentiality. They were all saying the same things. And up to that day, the only somewhat similar data that had somewhat similar responses as these coaches was from the business world. Business has been obviously a front runner in researching leadership, of course, for many years. So I remember calling my supervisor and saying, Dr. Bloom, I feel bad. I've interviewed my third person and they're not saying anything new. What are we going to do? And he said to me, he used to call me by my last name, so he said, Vallee, you have saturation of information. Well, I knew this because my undergrad was in chemistry, saturation. I was like, okay, I get saturation, I get this. So that's a good thing, it's saturated, nothing more. So we went to interview the fourth one, the fifth one, and suddenly it was clear that what these leaders were saying was all of the same. So I came back to the university and we had to transcribe all these interviews in a Word document. So there was about 8,000 pages, and you know, I paid somebody to do this because I couldn't get myself to do it. But anyway, once I had the data out there, then he says, Vallee, that's awesome. You've got a little gold mine here. I said, really? Okay. Well, he says, so now you got to put it, and you got to gather all the information together and put it into subcategories, and you got to, you know, reduce every, let's say you read a sentence and it talks about recruiting, put it under recruiting, create those labels, and then you have to make sure that with 4 other people, they can read each sentence and look at all the labels, and they would put it under the same label as you chose. Okay. So a year later, we had all the same labels, right? And then we were down from 473 little meaning units of different topics up to 120. No, Vallee, you got to do better than this. You got to put them all into more subcategories. So 3 months later, we're down to about 70, and about another year after, we're down to 4. See how research takes time? Thank God I could still walk Mika every day. After we're done with the forces, Vallee, this is really good. Now you gotta show us how they all like interact with each other so that you can maybe one day like, go speak and explain your research. And I thought, oh yeah, go speak and explain. Oh yeah, okay, I'm doing that today. Okay, that's good. So like, let's find a model. So I created this model and I thought, how do these higher order categories move in together to explain what the top leaders in the world do in the field of sport? Granted, was the topic of the research. And I came up with these Venn circles. You'll remember this from like grade 3 math. So I'm going to show you a little bit what this looks like. There we go. See, that was awesome. So there was a circle to the left, which was a higher order category, and we called it individual growth. I'll show you in a second, not right now. On the right, it was about organizational skills, because you got to be organized if you want to be successful in what you do. And back to the left, individual growth. I just heard Craig talk about how it's important to empower people and impart our knowledge. That's part of it. On the bottom, it was about the coach's characteristics, the leader, the desire to grow, to change, to learn, to reinvent is the word that I heard this morning, which was right on. And in the middle, I'm going to put a little check mark in the middle, right there. That is the most important. I mean, you can have everything else, but unless you have that fourth higher order category that links all the other, it links organizational skill, it links coaches' personal characteristics, it links the way that you can foster individual growth in your subordinate. Unless you have this in the middle, it is impossible for any leader to be successful. And I like to talk about this one because that's a doing thing, not a being thing. So people like that. And I'm going to share with you what it is. Just hold on. But of course, we never remember if I just say it, so I like to tell a story about it, because when I tell a story, people remember, and that's way better for leadership. It's a true story of this young boy called Walter. And Walter was a daydreamer. He was a little boy, and he really struggled at school because he'd always be like, you know what I'm saying? And just like very, very difficult into just concentrate, get good marks, study. So Walter's mom was really, really, really concerned after the school principal kept calling home or telling the parents that they weren't sure that Walter could really make it in life. And so the mother decided, well, you know what, Walter has an older brother, we're going to put him in charge, and we're going to make sure we sit them beside each other, and his older brother is going to make sure that they can go to school, and that Walter studies and focuses and does his math. Walter hated math. But his older brother actually loved math, really did, loved to be organized, loved numbers, very smart, attentionate, realistic. In fact, he became a banker later on, for a little bit. So Roy became in charge of Walter. And while he could somewhat control him a bit, what happened to Walter is that he was in class and he started to doodle. And he would doodle. And then his doodle would look like little characters. And he started to create stories in his head. And he went on, and his characters and his stories became longer and bigger and more exciting. He would share those with Roy, and Roy would be, I'm so discouraged about you. What are you going to do? So Roy became a banker, and Walter kept drawing things. And one day, Walter says, hey, Roy, I got an idea. What if all my little characters and cartoons and stories, what if we took this? What if we took this and created this amazing theme park where people could come and meet my characters in person and bring their kids and walk around and be like, wow, I feel I'm in that world. And Roy said, okay, you're kind of crazy, but sure, I'm a banker. Let's put some money into this. Let's do it, because obviously he had pity of Walter, you understand? But together they created Disney World. And I'm not saying this because Lee Cockrell is here and is going to be talking after, okay? I'm telling this story because it is actually the story we use in our master's degree research as an example of what the centerpiece of leadership success is. And so I'm just really excited. I always tell that story when I talk about that middle higher order category. I'm just excited to be able to share it today with Mr. Cockrell in the audience. But the idea was this: what did Walter or Walt do that was different than anybody else around him? Because Roy wasn't coming up with this idea, let me tell you. What was into Walter? What's the word that was used in those days? What was Walter doing? He was dreaming. He was dreaming. In fact, Roy was like, you're not realistic, stop this, you need a number, you need to get money on the bread on the table, you need to make money. But the dream and the idea to create something that seemed impossible until it's created was what made these two brothers successful. With, of course, the organizational skills that probably came more from Roy, I assume. But the dream was important. It's so amazing because as the years went by and as we grew as a society, the word dream became kind of fluff. I'm a dreamer. Oh boy, I don't want him on my staff. Stop dreaming. We got to be realistic. What are you talking about? The word dream is just kind of wasn't good anymore. And so the business people, those corporate people that love to take life more seriously, decide to change the word dream and say, well, we're not going to use this anymore, but instead we're going to use the word vision. Oh, don't we feel better? I'm a visionary. Whoa, that was worth a lot of money. I buy that one. But a vision is nothing else than a dream. And one of the problems that we saw in some coaches that were not successful, because we did actually interview one unsuccessful coach, just as a, let's check it out, is that everything was about being realistic. And everything was about rather pessimistic, because reality is not that cool. But visionaries were the coaches that were able to say, let's create, let's push the limits. Let's go and reach something that might seem impossible. And so a vision is a dream. And when we think about maybe all the kind of dreams that we had when we were younger, why not? Why have we let ourselves be taken by our society saying, well, no, that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. Because if I did this as a coach and I went to the worst program in the country and said, well, in 5 years, if you hire me, we're going to build them into national champion, unless other people had applied to the job, right? I might not have gotten it, but this was very bold statement, very bold. And I thought, why not dream? Why not? Is that not possible? It is. Other people have done it. Why not me? I'm not more intelligent. I'm not different than any other human being. I'm just somebody that says, I'm going to take that dream, make it a vision for the sake of the interview so I look decent, right? Yes. And then make a plan. Get some organizational skill. Convince people. And not let myself be discouraged. Because just like Mika, it takes a lot of time to achieve a vision, to see changes in the physical world. The next slide I'm going to show is actually our research. So I took actually from the published article, so you can have an idea a little bit of how the 4 higher order categories. Now, we published this in 2005, and what was really interesting was that this is what I took and we took as a coaching staff to transform our program. These are the actual steps, right? So you can read about empowering, and you can read about quest for learning, and of course the planning. There's no way that without this you cannot be successful. But the vision in the middle, the coach philosophy, the goals and direction, those are all things that are important. This is all about the doing. Now, 10 years later, which was more or less, it was in 2016, we published a second research article, and I did it in collaboration with Fresno State University, which is in your country, and it was about, hey, this was a theory of the model of leadership, but here I was the actual researcher that became the coach that embodied it and did it. So there was a bit of a case study on myself, and we published a second article about the being of it, not the doing of it. And you're more than welcome, it's online. It's called Creating a Winning Culture, and the importance of being willing to look inside first and change ourselves, because unless we are humanly in a disposition that is able to enact these things, we can try as much as we can, it's not going to work. Who we are becomes as important as what we do. And this is the importance, like the video said, about letting go of control, introspection, reinventing, acknowledging that some people on our staff might have better ideas than us and be okay with that. That's actually being very smart. I've had incredible assistant coaches, way smarter than me, but I was smart enough to listen to them. So then we won. That was awesome. Just to finish off here on some practical things, and this is the last little segment we're going to have, which is going to be quite short. This is what I show my players. I show my players about something I call the levels of intention. So now we're going to talk a bit about the mental aspect of it. And so if you want to achieve a vision, you want to be committed to doing what we're going to do for the next 4 years, for example, which is going to take time, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult. The key is in our mind. There are different levels of intention in the human mind, and you may or may not have known this. So I'm going to walk you through this with the same way I walk through this with my players. Okay, so let's say you all want to be part of my team, and we're going to win a national championship. Sounds good? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, you know, and you're going to be, you know, engaged when, you know, I make you run, and when it gets tense, right? Oh, okay. Well, let's see level of intention out there. Let's look at the first one, okay? So the first one is, I wish. All right? We have this dream, we have this goal, we have this idea. I wish. Wishing is the lowest level of intention in the human mind. I bet you a lot of you wish you spoke French, like me. I don't know. And you're never going to because you wish. Okay? Very lowest level of intention, you're cut. Next, we're going to go with I hope. Oh, I hope. I really hope to get in shape. You're cut. All right. Next one. I would like, oh, now, can you feel, I would like to, yeah, no, I would really like to, invest in a summer project with Rotary. I'd really like to. Well, good job, you're cut. You're not gonna make it. The levels of intention, while are getting a little better and a little higher and a little more motivational, are not going to get you to achieve a vision. I try. Let's try. Let's give it a try. Awesome. Do you feel better? You want to try this out? Let's try it. Cut. Of course, I want. Do you see how it's already, I really want this. Can you feel, right? You're going to start winning now. Right? Can you feel the level of intention in your mind is rising up? Cut. Because wanting something, while there's a higher level of intention, while you're probably going to get further with this, while it's probably going to get you to do something a lot longer, nothing is like commitment. Committing is the strongest level of intention in the human mind. When you commit to something, there's no turning back, there's no excuses, there's no quitting. You have engaged yourself, your mind, your body, mind, spirit, into committing to something until it works. And that's what it takes to achieve a vision. I like to show this slide. You probably saw it from some internet posts about success, right? So when you hear a story, like perhaps you see the video of what we have accomplished at the University of Windsor, and you think, well, look at Chantal, like she started there and she went back there and it took 5 years. No, it really looked like the squiggly over there. It really did. And there were times where I just wanted to quit, and I would cry and I'd be like, this is ridiculous, this is not gonna work. And I had to capture those thoughts and change a challenge into an opportunity, right? And really that's what my life looked like the last few years on the right. And that requires commitment, because it takes time to take all these things and put it into a straight line. I'm gonna leave you with one last image. And before I put it up, I just wanna see, if anything you remember about this talk, we talk about changing ourselves, we talk about vision or dreaming, and we talked about making sure that we have committed mentally as well. So the changes often is more at a maybe emotional, spiritual level. The commitment is more at a mental level. And of course, the changes can be seen in the physical. But if anything, I want you to remember Mika today, as we just took a picture before I left. She is 16. I know. And she is still doing so well. And I want you to look at those ears. "16 years, that's the first time I saw her ears up. It's possible." Now, I don't see the blue eyes, but that's okay. Well, they kind of blue now because they're very opaque, you know, because of the, but she's getting there, okay? What a beautiful husky, remember? And thank you so much for your time. You guys are a great group, and I really, really appreciate being here. Thank you very much.